Hello, everybody. Happy World Mental Health Day. I hope that you are having a good week so far, and I am so excited that you are here to join me for a very, very special podcast. I think this is the first time I have ever been live on time. I've actually been early today. I am so proud, and it is clear that that is because I am so excited to share this topic with you. So, just to begin with, what I wanted to do is just introduce myself for those of you who haven't met me or got to know me yet. But if you are already in my world, just a little reminder of what I do for you. So, I am Amy Downs, the content planning wizard, and my mission is to help fellow mums in business wave a wand over their social media pages. Now, one of my core values in my business is mental health, because having experienced some problems with my own, and then also knowing the impact that social media can have on your mental health. There can be so much to think about. It can become quite a struggle. So I talk about it a lot in in my content, and I also talk about it with my clients. So whenever I'm working with anyone, I always make sure that they are balancing their social media content with their mental health, because of course social media is important. I will tell you that, but I will always say that the most important thing is that you are looking after yourself. So if you are watching live, give me a shout. I really want to say hello to you. Click the link. Because I'm on StreamYard, you have to give them permission to show me that it's you here. I can see that there is already a couple of you here, which is wonderful. Danny, hi Danny. Thank you, sweetheart. Danny sent me a message this morning saying, "Oh, where can I see you? I need to be there." So thank you, Danny, for your excitement. And Stacey, lovely to see you as well. Please do let me know if you're watching on replay. Pop a comment in the comments, let me know you're watching. And if you do have any questions or comments, but you're watching or listening later on, then please feel free to still make a comment, share your thoughts with me, because I will definitely love to have a chat with you about this topic. So, World Mental Health Day is an event set up by, or certainly supported by, it's actually a national event created by the UN, but the Mental Health Foundation run the campaign in the UK on this day every year. You can already see on social media there's loads and loads to talk about it. There's been news articles this morning about how many people are, the numbers of people self-harming has increased, which is terrifying and really upsetting. So the idea is that the importance, obviously, of talking about your mental health is huge. So the Mental Health Foundation are encouraging people today to talk about their mental health. They're getting people together for bake sales and coffee mornings. And as much as I would love to have a piece of cake while I'm chatting with you, I thought that we could do something a little bit different. So I wanted to gather together our online community, because I think that as women in business, we're actually really, really good at connecting and supporting each other. I don't think there's any other area in the world where people are quite so supportive of each other. I think as women, we probably feel like we've got to battle against the patriarchy all the time. We've got to balance everything with the kids. It's hard going, and having that village there to support you is absolutely vital. So I wanted to create this podcast, and hopefully future episodes of this podcast as well, to create that community for women in business, so we can come and talk about topics that are important. You can share your experiences, and you can hear from experts as they share their experiences too. Just a couple of sort of, what's the word they call it, housekeeping notes later for later on in the show. We aren't charging for this episode. You are going to be getting a hell of a lot of value out of it, but I am not encouraging, there's no prerogative from my side, but I have set up a Just Giving page. So if anybody would like to donate anything to the Mental Health Foundation, I am just popping that link in the comments now. If that hasn't worked, I'll come back to that. But it would be amazing if you could donate to the charity today, just because I think this is such an important work that they do. And then the other thing is that as a thank you for joining us today, our experts have offered to share some freebies with you, which is really exciting. So after we've all chatted and done our work together, we can then go on to keep this going and actually putting our ideas and our thoughts into action. So all I need you to do, if you want a copy of those those freebies is drop me a message, or if you comment or like on any of these posts today, I'm going live in 3 different places, which is very daunting. If you comment or you engage with the post, I will be in touch with it afterwards to see if you would like me to send you the links over. So we'll tell you a bit more about those freebies later on. But first of all, what I would love to do is invite you, is welcome to you, my guests. So as we move into the podcast, I wanted to begin with, what do we think are the best and worst things about social media? So if you're watching live or via replay, can you let me know in the comments what you think is the best thing about social media and the worst? Just one of each. You have to pick the absolute best thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our guests to share their answers as well. So first of all, I'm going to bring in Chantel, who is an acupuncturist based near me in Leeds, and also runs the Leeds Baby Bank as well. So incredible work that you do. Chantel, what are your, do you want to tell everybody who you are and what your best and worst parts of social media are?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Chantal Nobu from Dragonfly Acupuncture Leeds, and I have been a family health acupuncturist for the last 10 years. But prior to that, was a holistic therapist, so I've been supporting families for a long time now. One of my favourite things about social media is connecting with people. I have family in the Netherlands. It's where I'm originally from, and it gives me a great way of connecting with them and connecting with old classmates, but also meeting other businesswomen, or anybody really. You connect with anybody all over the world that have a similar interest. I think one of the downsides for me of social media is just the overwhelm. There is that much of it. There are so many different platforms. Everybody's like, oh, go and do this and go and do this. And, for me, that's a real struggle. And I definitely have to make sure that I take time out from that. So that's my little pros and cons, and I'll go more into the rest later.
There we are. You're already starring in the podcast. Perfect signposting, letting people know that that is a topic that we will be going into in a little bit more detail later on. So thank you so much, Chantal. That's amazing. Next up, I would like to introduce Nicola. Nicola,
Hi.
hi. Do you want to tell everybody who you are and what you think the best and worst things are about social media?
Thank you. So I'm Nicola Parker. I'm from Stronger Than Your Mind, and I'm a mental fitness mentor for mums and mumpreneurs. Such a mouthful to say that. I should have picked like an easier name, that member bit. So my best thing about social media is realizing that you're not alone, because people do sometimes feel safe to be hidden behind a screen and feel more able to say things that they may not particularly say in person. That then helps you to realize that you are not alone in what you're going through. But then equally, my worst thing about social media can be that if you're not careful with it, that it can trigger you and can cause you to go further down into a spiral, which again, like Chantal said, with the overwhelm, we'll be going more into triggers later on today.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, triggers is the main reason I invited you and asked you to come and join this podcast, because I know that that is something you cover really well, and it's definitely something that I've experienced myself. So I'm really glad we get to touch on that one. Thank you. So next up we have Becky. Becky, slightly different area that you cover, but again, a really vital one that I know people will really relate to later on when we're talking. But to begin with, can you introduce yourself and let people know what your best and worst parts of social media are?
Yes, hi, I'm Becky and I'm from Barrel of Photos. My lighting should be so much better to say I'm a photographer right now, but I have just come from my 36-week scan. So there we go. We'll use that excuse. So my pro to social media is being able to open up, express your feelings and just be you. And to me, it doesn't really matter. Other people can have opinions about that and they can have judgments, but it's an outlet for me to get my feelings out there and just be me, basically. The worst, I believe, and this is a photographer's point of view, the filtered images, the filter behind the face. It upsets me that if I'm doing a woman's confidence shoot, that straight away she will say, "Can you put a filter on me?" And I'd rather a woman love herself and for who she is than having to put a mask over the beautiful face. So yeah,
I love it.
that's my
I
comment.
love it. Such an empowering message. I'm so happy to have you here with everybody as well.
In the
And
dark.
look, we can hear you. That's all that matters. That's absolutely the best thing. And finally, I would like to introduce Yvonne. Last but definitely not least, Yvonne, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your best and worst parts of social media?
Yeah, I'm Yvonne Pritchard, and I am the owner of Believe Coaching. And I basically make people happy. So my pros of social media is the fact that I can reach lots of people and I can share my experience with them. But just as importantly, I can learn from others as well. So, my network isn't confined to where I live. It's global. And that for me is fantastic. The cons, now having said that I make people happy, this might come as a surprise. I hate the rose-tinted glasses view of the world that we have on social media. It drives me mental that people just go, oh, everything's wonderful, everything's amazing. No, that's not life. And I know, but I think we're going to touch on this later with that comparison bit. It's like, no, it's edited highlights, but we don't remember that when we're feeling really low. We're looking at everybody else's life and going, oh, there's amazing and mine is rubbish. So that's the thing that really winds me up about social media.
Absolutely. I think yourself and Becky have got very, very similar thoughts on that. So yeah, you're right. We will definitely connect to that. In fact, I was thinking as I was getting ready for this podcast, I've been doing that myself only this week since the David Beckham documentary came out. Binge watched it, absolutely loved it. Went to have a look at Vicky B on Instagram. I adore her. And of course, ever since then, I've been thinking, oh my goodness, she's 7 years older than me and she looks so much better. It's like, well, yes, of course she does, Amy. She has the money. But there is, you end up just putting yourself down on something that should be positive and happy. So lovely. I look forward to covering that later. Thank you all for sharing a really brilliant list there. The idea of making connections being a huge thing that's coming through there. And that, of course, for me has got to be the best thing about social media as well. I did want to add in there about the opportunities that can come from it. So you make connections, you can create collaborations. But I was asked to write a column for a football magazine. I'm an Ipswich Town fan, and I was asked to write for the local paper purely because of my presence on Twitter. And so it's just this idea of actually it can feel overwhelming, but if you're consistent and you really have you're confident enough to put out your own thoughts and feelings, you will start to make the connections, and just opportunities that you didn't even expect will come through. So hopefully we can help to give you the confidence to be able to put yourself out there, build awareness about who you are, and then make opportunities happen for you and your business and just make life a little bit happier. So brilliant to hear everybody's thoughts on that. We did have some more positives and negatives shared in the comments, so thank you, Stacey and Danny and Emmy. I can see that you're there as well, so thank you everybody. The Danny says the best is connection, worst is overwhelm. Brilliant. So obviously overwhelm is going to be something that we're going to be hopefully helping you with today, Danny, and as the queen of organization, I'm sure you'll be benefiting from a little bit of help with the overwhelm, although you're already fabulous at it. Stacey says worst is the pressure. Again, that's something that you mentioned, Chantel, with the feeling of just feeling like you've got to be doing everything. But the fact that Stacey can be seen worldwide. Social media is the free marketing tool. It's brilliant because it's free. So it's making sure that we can make the most of that really is huge. And I've got somebody else whose name I can't see, but I can see that you're saying women talking about such an important topic. Thank you ever so much. So we've covered the positives and negatives. I just want to, for a little bit, not too long, we're not going to dwell on it, but I want to talk about the negatives for a little bit. So negative experiences that we have had. The reason I want to do this is obviously it is World Mental Health Day, and one of the best ways we can cope with. Oh, hi, Mina. Lovely to see you. So yeah, one is the best ways to cope with mental health is being able to talk about it, being able to recognize it in the first place, being able to talk about the problems that you're having, being able to reach out for support. So actually actually I thought that if we could all share the rubbishy times that we've had, then it would be really good to sort of get that off your chest and know that you are not alone. So anybody who's watching on live or replay, if you want to share any negative experiences that you've had, please do feel free. But first of all, I wanted to go through, while you guys are commenting, hopefully, I would like to have a chat with the guests about what experiences they've had. So Chantal, I loved what you shared with me about overwhelm, because I think as business owners, we can probably all relate to that. I feel, I mean, obviously social media is my life, but I do also feel like I am constantly writing posts. It's all the time. And I often think, oh my God, if I had to go out and do acupuncture as well, I don't know how I'd fit it all in. So how has overwhelm impacted you? How has social media created that feeling of overwhelm?
I think being what I do, like, you know, as an acupuncturist, as a sole practitioner, I do work very differently. Like, I work mobile, so I haven't got a storefront as such. And I feel that my social media is almost that storefront. So it's a way of getting my name and my business name out there, because people are not going to see it, you know, on their travels. So it's been a long time, you know, I've been an acupuncturist for 10 years, so I've been doing this a long time, and it's, you know, it's working, but you're constantly feeling like you need to get something out there, and you need to post, and then new platforms crop up, and like, oh, well, should I do something on TikTok, or should I do something, like, should I do more on Instagram? And then, you know, the new platform, I've forgotten what it's called, like,
Yeah,
oh, well, people are all on that, like, do I need to be on that? And there's always these thoughts of being pulled into different directions, and almost feeling like that you need to be in that place in order to, how it sometimes comes across is you need to be on this platform in order to be successful. And I think what I found to myself is that actually I just need to focus on the platforms that are home to my core group, you know, the people that come to me, like, where do they hang out? And that's the place for me to focus on, because I know being an acupuncturist can be very physically draining. You know, a lot of my patients go through very heavy stuff, and you try and leave that at the doorstep, but sometimes you carry that with you, and then having the overwhelm from social media is just too much. So yeah, I don't want to go into the tips already, so I'll have to stop myself there. But that's really one of my stories, is it's just the experience of not really knowing where to go, or feeling like you need to be everywhere, but actually knowing that just focus on your, you know, your main platform.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, I think the app you might have been referring to is Threads. I'm a massive fan of Threads because I'm a big fan of Twitter. So I think Meta doing Threads Meta doing Twitter is going to be amazing. But I've barely been on it because, like you say, you can't be everywhere. There was a new one somebody mentioned yesterday called Artifact, which looks great as well. It's like, oh my goodness, how are we supposed to keep up on top of all of these? So yes, completely relate to that, and we can talk about it more later. But one thing I did want to say very quickly is I think we lose the idea of the fact that social media is meant to be enjoyable. So when you feel under pressure to show up everywhere, you're not going to enjoy it. Whereas like on a Saturday, I love social media because I'll be on Twitter talking about football. It is bliss. I love it. Even if I'm not at a game, especially when I'm not at a game, I'm able to connect with people that I can't normally talk to because they live all the way down in Ipswich. And that, for me, is what we should all be trying to do in social media, is finding places that we enjoy. Thank you so much, Chantal, because I think I imagine that is something that lots of people will relate to. And it connects nicely with Nicola. You made a really interesting point about groups and how actually Facebook can those communities often aren't as supportive and positive as you think they're going to be. What was your experience?
Yeah, I think with myself already being a qualified counsellor and kind of knowing all the talk and the academic side of things, but then when I started struggling with my personal mental health, and was first diagnosed with something called borderline personality disorder, or some people know it as emotionally unstable personality disorder. And so then doing kind of what social media can be great for, and he's going looking for specific groups to do with that illness, be it a physical illness, a mental illness, or even something that we enjoy doing, like with yourself with football and things. But for me, I found quite a lot of the groups that I came across were very negative, and it was very, oh, this is how we're portrayed in the media. Like, we need to be scared of going outside because people are going to attack us, or, oh, well, there's no point in doing things because we've got a 10% chance of suicide, so we might as well. It was all just very negative. It was all like, oh, I'm never going to be able to form a stable relationship because of this, or what is the point? And it was like, wow, it was very, everybody feeding off each other's negativity rather than everybody looking for solutions together and going, oh, well, this has really helped me to deal with when I'm disassociating, or, oh, this has really helped me when I'm trying to deal with unsafe coping mechanisms. Like, it was more like just all being negative together and then getting sucked into that, because I think we've all heard the saying, especially in business, that you become the people you surround yourself with most. So then if a group is more negatively driven, then that is going to drive you to feel more and more like that, even in your life off the screen, because I think we then definitely our lives do become similar to what we're associating with on the screen. If we're just seeing negativity about our illnesses, that's all we're going to see. So I think for me, it was definitely a dark place to be in. When I was already in a dark place, it made that dark a little bit darker.
I suppose in a way we kind of, you see it said quite, you attract the energy that you put out sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
So if you are in a negative place, other people are going to relate to that, and then you can kind of almost rub each other up the wrong way. And whereas in person you might not, but then you might not feel you can talk about it. So it is very challenging. But I was really glad you shared that experience, because I definitely had that with mum groups when I had Harry, when I was a first time mum. I literally used them as a crutch. They were the things that got me through the day. So when they turned negative, there was one woman, she was a bit older, and she was very set in her ways. She did not like us baby led weaning and things like that. And the negativity, I had to pull myself out of the group, and then of course I'd lost my crutch. And I think that's quite often the problem, is we come to rely on the wrong sort of areas. But yes, thank you so much for sharing. That's amazing. So next up, I wanted to come to Becky, because actually while we're sort of talking about finding support, finding help in the right place, Bex, I'm going to need you to unmute your mic when you come on. There we go. Perfect. I thought it was me that had muted you. I was like, oh God, I've lost her. So you mentioned, I mean, obviously your whole thing is brilliant, the message about showing up as yourself. So what would you say, what's been your experience of that in the past? Do you find it impacts your clients when you're working with them?
Yeah, so I like to be as open and honest as I can be. And I think that came from lockdown, going into such an horrendous time. I suffered anxiety before, so my sort of sense was the world's going to end at all times. But when the world felt like it actually were ending, it was nice to actually put out there how I was feeling, how I was coping with it. There were people that had never experienced anxiety before messaging saying, how on earth are we supposed to cope with this? And homeschooling as children, and just feeling overwhelmed with everything. So when I felt it, rather than going to bed and crying and having enough of the day, I would take to social media, my own personal profile. I would post exactly how I felt, nothing hidden. And all of a sudden I'd have, within seconds, women feeling the same. We got groups together, women that would just make jokes about as children, like, oh, leave them downstairs, let them get their own homework done, we'll just party on upstairs as a bit of just to get each other through. And that we had to feel like we had this routine and we had to do everything perfect. Well, we didn't, because not everybody is perfect. So I found a lot of support in that. And I also found I suffered really bad hormones each month, and I found a group, and it's called PMDD, which I'm trying to get diagnosed for. And the ladies in these groups have been amazing. I could post anything and feel that somebody will have had that experience and not judge me for it. So mine's very much, I'm going to say it how it is. I've only ever had one negative comment, and it were a lady saying there's people that are getting bombed, and you've got a little bit of anxiety. So obviously I blocked and deleted her. But that's it.
And that is another sort of part. I think it was Danny that just said sometimes we have to remember social media doesn't control us. We can control it, and we'll obviously cover that later on. But yes, again, I really relate to all of that, especially lockdown. I had to delete all of my apps and come off it, which was a terrible time to do it because we were all bored and at home and didn't have anything. But I realised I was on it because I was bored. And then when you were feeling low, it just had a horrendous way of managing to make you feel even lower.
Thinking everyone's got a perfect life when actually they haven't.
Yeah.
I know people do post, but it's a way of making themselves feel better, and we do want them likes, we do want them comments. We'd lie if we said we didn't. And I think that's the point. Some people can look down social media and go, why ain't my life as perfect as hers?
Yeah.
That's just a picture. It's not giving you all story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two sides to that as well, isn't there? Where it's like, actually, I share a lot of the good stuff, and I can go quiet for weeks when I'm having a terrible time. But I share the good stuff because I'm quite proud of it, and I want people to see it, especially my family and friends that are on there. Thank you. And exactly, people should feel absolutely great about sharing the positive stuff. But when you are really, really low, you may not be in a position where you do feel, and I don't think you should ever feel forced to share the negative stuff. As Danny said, and as I know Nicola will be covering in a bit, we have to figure out how we process all that positive stuff and making sure we don't bring it on to ourselves. So thank you. And I think that the comments that you had there relate very nicely, bring us nicely into Yvonne. If I can just find the lovely Yvonne on my... there you go. Can you add? Sorry. Yvonne, do you want to share with us what happened with your daughter? Bless you.
Yes, so my daughter's 17 and she was looking for a job. So being proactive, she put a post on one of the local groups. Now, I'm dyslexic and so is she. She's probably more dyslexic than I am. And she spelt something wrong. And I think it was a 2 as a TWO. Yeah, the twos, there's 3 ways of spelling it. And one woman just ripped into her and said, well, it would help if you could spell. And she came to me, she goes, what do I do? And I went, you just ignore it.
Oh, bless her.
Thankfully, lots of people in the group came to her defense and just shot this woman down. And it's just like, seriously, okay, she said on it that she was 17, that she's looking for a part-time job. And actually, my daughter did put on it, I'm dyslexic, sorry. I said, don't apologize, just tell them. So, I worked through it with her, and I've had the same. However, because I've had a lot of work done, all right? I always say, if you compare the work I've done to my head to plastic surgery, you wouldn't recognize me. So I flip it, and Nicola, I'm sure you can relate to this as well. If somebody messages me and goes, oh, there's a spelling mistake in your post, or, there's a spelling mistake on this or that and the other, and I go, thank you. I know that A, you've seen it, and B, you've read it. Thank you very much.
I like that.
So, so again, it's flipping it. It's taken a while to get there, but and my daughter, thankfully, she was able to brush it off, but at 17, if somebody done that to me, I'm not sure if I could have brushed it off, but yeah, she did. But there are some horrible people out there. And I think, Amy, as we were talking earlier, these people, it's probably more of an indication of what's going on in their life, but actually wind your neck in and, there's no need to be horrible and mean.
Yeah, I completely agree, and firmly in your camp when it comes to that. The be kind message, it still astounds me that is still not getting through to some people. I do believe firmly that it is because they 99 times out of 100, they will have something going on in their own life and they are using social media to take it out on other people. I have had people come and apologize to me for trolling me 4 or 5. In fact, it was when Harry was tiny, so good 5-6 years ago, when I had my worst time on Twitter. And the lad, one in particular, but a few blokes, one in particular, like begged for me to unblock him so that he could send me a message, apologize. He's been going through mental health issues. He realized that at the time he was just young, he was being bullied, he wasn't happy. And I just think that not all the time, but quite often it will just be that people are on social media to vent their frustrations because they're bored, because they just haven't got anything, they're not happy in their lives, which come back to what you talk about, doesn't it? So I think often it goes back to what Danny said earlier and what we'll be talking to Nicola about in terms of how we let it impact us and how we can respond if there is something negative. Like, I have an awful habit in the morning of logging into Facebook and just scrolling for a bit while I'm still in bed and coming round, and there is like no exception. I will always see news stories and people commenting on it, and I think this morning's one was people moaning about Big Brother's multiculturalism and how it's ticking boxes, and I want to run in there and scream at everybody, and you think, no, just take a breath, that's not going to get you anywhere. Like, just sometimes you have to think, do I scroll on by, or sometimes you have to weigh the balance and say, actually, do you know what, I'm going to step in here and I'm going to say, actually, no, this person may have dyslexia, that's really unfair to comment on their spelling, or as Nicola's just said there, offer them support with whatever it is that they are going through. I quite like it when someone just replies, is everything okay? Because they never know what to say to that one, but it gets that point across that actually there's more important things in life. But yes, thank you everybody for your comments during that. I would like to try and pick us up now from the negatives into the positives. It sounds really corny, but I kind of have a bit of a mission of wanting to make social media a positive place. I have been at my lowest ever point, with part of that being caused by social media. I had postnatal depression, and around the same time as reaching out for help for that, I then got an awful incident of trolling, which to this day people still send me nasty tweets about. But I have grown, as you have said, I have changed, I have learned a lot, and I am now able to cope with it. Not 100%, but better than I was before. And that goes for social media as a whole. And I think that if we can recognize our own behaviors, we are able to change that and not let the negativity affect us. We flip it, as Yvonne said, and turn this into a positive experience. And I genuinely believe that if we can be out there being positive, being happy, then we can make it a positive place for other people as well. So let's move on to the main section of the podcast, which is where we get to use these experts for their advice and to hear from them. So guys, if you have any questions, we're actually running nice. I can't believe this. I have never been so on time in my whole life. We are running really well on time today. So if anybody does have any questions whilst the experts are talking, do let me know. I'm just conscious that I want to make sure that everybody finishes at 2:00. So if I skip any questions, I will come back to you later. I'm just trying to make sure we keep on time. But let's have a look at what we can ask for help with from the experts. So Chantal obviously has been talking about overwhelm. Chantal, I would love it if you could share with us, like what actually is the definition of overwhelm?
So the definition of overwhelm is feeling like buried or drowned under stuff, and it really affects you, like not just physically, not just mentally, but physically as well. So when we look at overwhelm, there is a real vicious circle there, because when we tend to feel overwhelmed, we start feeling anxious. When we start feeling anxious, we feel more overwhelmed. So it's very hard to snap out of that cycle. And as an acupuncturist, I see a lot of people with overwhelm, and definitely worse so since COVID. I started seeing people about 10 weeks in, had 10 weeks off, and was back into seeing people face to face. and pretty much everybody was struggling with post-traumatic stress and trauma, just from the whole lockdown situation and the uncertainty and just a feeling of complete overwhelm across all boards, not necessarily just social media. One of the key things with overwhelm, or ways to deal with overwhelm, is the fact that you can choose, like Denny says, you can control what you do. You know, you don't have to let the overwhelm control you. And it's saying that, you know, what I do is enough, and you can be selective. You can say, this is all I need to focus on, and ignore everything else. Like for me, a key thing is that if groups have that negative vibe that we've mentioned a few times, you know, Nicola mentioned that certain groups aren't always helpful. And for me, that's a real indicator when I'm on social media and I'm in groups, because very often people add you into groups that you don't really want to be in. And I'm like, okay, I'll leave this group, or there's too much negativity going on. And it's not, if it doesn't benefit me, I don't want it. And I know that can sound really, really selfish, but if whatever somebody brings to the table doesn't benefit me, it doesn't help me in any way, then I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I try and leave those groups. The problem is that with the overwhelm of social media, there is new groups popping up all the time. And you're like, oh, you get added to more groups. So it seems to be a constant battle. But for me, one of the key things is I like having screen-free times.
Yeah.
So it's not just social media. It's actually, I'm spending a lot of time on my phone, you know, like probably most of us do everything, emails, accounts, social media, you know, like creating images, doing my banking, my shopping, you know, all the school stuff, like it's all on apps nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's just too much. So I like to enforce like everyday screen-free time, which my 11-year-olds love me for, because they're like, what do you mean we're not allowed our phones or laptops or tablets? Because screen-free time in our house, it's not just phones, but it's the consoles and everything else. Because I think it's important to give our brains and our eyes a break from it.
Yeah.
So I know I've gone into tips as well.
No, that's what I wanted you to do. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So yeah, the
Yeah.
key thing really is that you are enough, and you know, be kind. Like you were just talking about the kindness, and I have the perfect top on today. Kind is cool. Show more love is what it says on my top, and I think it's showing kindness to everybody out there, even the ones that are being total idiots, to be honest. And I know a lot of them, not necessarily through post on my page, but a baby bank page. You know, we have lots of judgmental people on there. And it's like, don't be judgmental if you haven't walked in the people's shoes that need our help. But, you know, I always say kill them with kindness, but very much be kind to yourself as well.
Yep, I love that. Thank you. I think that's there's some really, really good, just easy things that we can all do to help ourselves all the time, even when you feel like you're totally on top of it. Actually, making sure you have some screen-free time. I tend to leave my phone on charge when my kids get home, so I come downstairs and usually they're on their screens, so they're not interested in talking to me. But at least I've come away from my laptop. I suppose that's the balance with it as well. Harry, my eldest, has autism, so when he gets home, he needs that downtime with his screen, but we are trying to make sure that, you know, he puts it away after tea, and then we have a bit of time, or I'm doing homework with him when he hasn't got after school club and things like that. So it's finding the right balance for you, but reminding yourself, like, I don't know, if you're just laid, my thing is when I'm laid in bed watching something on my phone, I'm always scrolling on social media as well. It's like, Amy, just choose something you're really enjoying and stick to it. Do one thing for once. So yeah, little tips like that. I loved what you said about having a clear out. If you find you're in groups, I can think of I've been trying to have a bit of a clear up on Facebook in particular. We're coming out of groups that I know just they might have been useful for me in the past, but they just don't feel it at the moment. So that definitely I think is a fabulous tip for overwhelm, because there are so many. I think the people who invented the everyone tag and the new chat function need stringing up because they're just too much, and everybody's just using them all the time rather than from on content that actually needs it. But it's learning to say, do you know what? Oh, roll your eyes, another chat invite, just ignore it. I always check whether it is something that might help. But generally it tends to just be right, okay, I'm just going to leave that one, it's fine, rather than letting yourself get cross about it. So yes, and screen free time and then killing them with kindness, I'm sure that we'll be coming back to with everybody as well. But I think that is the best approach you can take. If somebody gets on your nerves, then there is nothing more satisfying than just being genuinely really lovely, because nobody can complain at you for that, and you can't start a row or because they can't come back to that. So anyway, that's fabulous. Thank you so much, Chantal. I think there's some really helpful tips. Thank you. So next up, I would like to chat to Nicola about triggers mainly, but what you feel you can do to help. So why do you think social media is so triggering for us, like mums, business owners, but also for the people who tend to come back nasty?
I think I'll start off with a bit of a warning, not necessarily a trigger warning, but in that I do say that I sting like a bee so that you can fly like a butterfly. So anybody I support is a butterfly to me. So I am quite blunt with my advice in that as a nation, as a country, we kind of say like, oh, this is triggering, that's triggering. And we then kind of expect others to be mindful of our triggers. So my first thing is that anything that's triggering, the first place we need to look at about that trigger is ourselves. We cannot expect to have the world be mindful of our triggers, because that's impossible, because we will all have our own triggers. What you find triggering on social media, I might not find triggering on social media, and vice versa. So it's kind of impossible for the likes of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to be sensitive of everybody's triggers. And it's the same with people. Yes, we can be kind. So it's such an overlap. There's being kind, and then there's knowing that you can't be mindful of everybody's triggers. For example, one of my triggers for years, for like up to 2 decades, was the word dad, or somebody saying to me, oh, so you got a mum and a dad. And I'm like, wow, that's a trigger. Now that is going to cause me to go into a decline in my mental fitness today. Like, oh my gosh. And I would expect my family around me to not refer to my dad in any way, even if it was just, oh yeah, when you was little, or what, just no, don't refer to them as dad. So to me, it's about knowing if something's triggering you, rather than looking at that person going, oh my gosh, why have you said that? Like, why have you behaved that way? It's then looking at, well, why? What is that making me feel? To me, that's a sign of, okay, there's something that you need to work on, because you're not accepting it. It's similar to like Yvonne saying with the dyslexia situation. And I've shared in the comments, I'm dyslexic as well. And when you're running a business and you're posting written content out on social media, it can be really difficult. And not to tie all teachers with the same brush, but when I was first posting things out on social media, I'd have a lot of teachers comment and say, I still don't know to this day, so you can give me as much tips as you like, but it won't go in. I don't know the difference between which there and there to use. And it's just, oh, the where and where. I'm like, what, there's 2? I never knew that anyway. So I don't necessarily know a difference. Like with your daughter, Yvonne, yesterday I'd sent quite an important official letter to somebody, and I'd used the wrong 2 as well. And it was somebody else who had shared the message. It was like, oh, you missed a naught off. And I was like, oh, really? Never mind. It still says the same thing, doesn't it? In our English language, gosh, we have that many words that are difficult. But to me, it's about looking at, okay, that's potentially triggered them. If they're having to be unkind about somebody, if they're having to share these things about, oh my gosh, look how they're dressed, or oh my gosh, look how they're living their life, or blah, 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 or oh my gosh, you can't even spell. And it's like, oh, I feel really upset for you that someone's clearly behaved towards you in this way, so you feel like behaving towards me in that way. So because I know, I'm proud that as a business owner, and I do have dyslexia, like with your daughter, Yvonne, how amazing is that despite her knowing, I'm not good with writing, she still put a post and put herself out there. And it's the same with yourself, having it and running a business. So with me, it's like I used to have like a caption on my website to say, like, this is my website, it's all done by me, and I apologize for any bad spelling or grammar, I've got dyslexia. But over the years, working on myself and going, no, I accept all of me, and accepting all those parts and going, I don't need to apologize. If somebody wants to let me know, you've spelt that wrong or this is wrong, but okay, but I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to change it because it still says what it says. You can still, we only need to see the first and the last letter. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that thing that used to get shared where you can read like a whole paragraph of information. It's just the first and the last letter that we need to see anyway. So it's like, but it makes me feel proud that despite whatever it be, the spelling or something, that I'm still putting myself out there because I have dealt with my triggers. So yes, social media can be a triggering place. And yes, we have to do the social media detox. We have to. One of the things I do even now daily, especially on a day like today, like go and have a look at any of my social media today and you'll see me talking about why I do not like World Mental Health Day and why World Mental Health Day can be so triggering for people who are struggling with their mental health, because people will be posting today, oh, go talk, go start talking. Yet tomorrow they'll be sharing a is it a meme? They'll be sharing a thing about when, oh yeah, I wish I had OCD so I could clean my house. And you'd be like, no, you can't say it one day and then the next day carry on behaving inappropriately towards mental health and things like that. So I always advise to people that I support is that constantly be looking at, if you don't like something, like we've said already, you can come out of groups and things, but every single social media platform gives you the option. It's obviously different on each platform as to what you're clicking, but you can click and say, don't show me things like this. So for example, I don't follow anything in the news. The only news I see is what my kids tell me, and I've got 3 teenagers and a toddler, so that news varies. So it's what the kids tell me, what comes up on my social media, which isn't much. I will often not know that there's some disaster going on in some part of the world, but sounds rude, but if it's not here and affecting me knowing about that as an empath is only going to upset me. So I don't need to know that. So consistently looking at, okay, do I want to see posts about, I don't know, like I used to really love watching crime things and be obsessed with serial killers. And I'd be like, oh, great. But it's like, actually constantly having nightmares. Like, do I really need to be taking this information in? So just clicking wherever the buttons are and saying, don't show me things like this, helps to not have as triggering of a social media space without having to unfriend anybody or unfollow anybody or even leave groups. If you're in a group and you think, oh, I really like this particular element of the group, but I'm not really enjoying these parts, telling that social media platform, don't show me posts like this, means that when you're on your group feed, it'll show you the parts about the group you do like and not the parts you don't like. So I think my first kind of answer to dealing with triggers is look at each trigger as a positive for yourself. Thank you, Emma. And say, okay, what do I need to do to be more emotionally independent about that trigger? Because the best person to help you with your triggers is you. So look at it as a sign of what you need to start working on. But then equally being mindful that if something is going to be a consistent trigger, or you don't want to see things like the news or, you know, stories about a particular topic, which you might be like, look, I'm trying to deal with that right now, so I don't want to be seeing it, or negativity, then let the algorithm know. Let that Facebook or Instagram or wherever and let it know, don't show me things like that. So I do sting like I be a little bit at the start, but hopefully then I bring in a little bit of help.
No. So I think, to be honest with you, I think you're absolutely bang on. I think that's absolutely right. That it comes back to what you said about being stuck in sort of being a victim. And yes, absolutely. Do you know what? It is horrible when social media makes you feel like that. It's an awful place to be. Absolutely, take a step back, block, delete apps, whatever you need to do. But at some point, you are going to benefit more in your life if you can figure out, okay, why is it that I'm reacting like this? And I really relate to that, because that's what I've had panic attacks caused by people being awful to me on social media. There was one podcast where someone went at me, and I was literally on a live podcast while I was really like having an anxiety attack. It was horrible. But that is, since then I've learned about you can't help it in the moment, but it's learning how to deal with those things afterwards. And I think that's incredible, and highly recommend Nicola's group for being able to sort of think more about stuff like that, because it really helps you think about it. And Emmy has just said that your advice has had her thinking as well, which is fabulous. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. So I suppose talking about that, like taking back control without wanting to sound like the Tories, taking back some control on your own life. Becky, I would really like to be able to talk about your group as well, and how you empower women. What do you do to help women feel more confident, especially if they're in front of camera?
Yeah, that's the hard bit. So I started running boudoir sessions. I'd book an hotel room. I'd look a bit strange, all these women coming in and one after other. But yeah, it came across to me that the boudoir session needed wording differently. It needed to be women's confidence shoots.
Love that.
Because you can't expect a lady who's feeling absolutely horrendous in herself to just come and be confident. It can be a slow process, which comes with the comments of, can you filter me? Can you get rid of my fat arms? Can you do this? I don't like how big my bum is. There's always these comments. And for me, who sees through lens, and we are all different, we are all unique, and I just want people to sort of celebrate that about themselves. But that bit is the hard bit to get through, I believe. So the women's confidence shoots and stuff like that, it is a slow build up, but I'd rather somebody say, I start loving me, than putting these angel filters on and saying, oh, this is me, because it's not. And this is how we walk around, isn't it? So I did a group called Empowered Women Empower Women, and it were a place for me to rant, basically, and again get stuff off my chest and how we're feeling, and hearing other people's stories. And I think a lady asked about what up here, is it Emmy, who said about what do you all do to help your mental health. I'd post things like that because I want to learn from people. So it were almost like a learning curve for me. How do we help each other? You know, because we can always learn that. And then I decided to do a podcast called 40 Things to Do Before I'm 40. And they are the most ridiculous things. It's not like go to South Africa and see elephants. Yeah, I'd love to. But it's a bit more realistic than that. And it is, I went and did a photo shoot with my friend, and we went in woods, and I felt that women's confidence, and I did. I looked at the camera and I'm judging myself, and I'm like, I'm doing what I hate all these women do, and I'm doing it myself. So it was a really big thing to sort of see, because it's hard. Social media makes us feel like we're not good enough, and we are. And that's my main thing I want to learn, and I want everybody else to sort of feel as well.
I love it. Have you got any tips for anybody who maybe wants to take some photos to put out on their social media? Because I am always telling people, when you share your own story, we've said it today, for struggling, or if you want to share an experience that you've had to help others. The post that I put out this morning, I was scrolling down my gallery on my phone to try and find a picture of me that I liked. And for the whole summer, where I've been on some lovely holidays, I have either not got any photos of myself, or they're absolutely terrible because they're selfies and your chins are like this, and it's just, oh,
you think they're terrible. You think they're terrible, not everyone else. But you smiling there, that is a picture. That's a picture everybody wants to see. That's the Amy that people will remember from this podcast. And I think, to me, that is what it's all about. It's a real you. And we can all, I did it this morning. I did the shoot yesterday, the women's confidence shoot in an hotel. And I woke up this morning in my hotel feeling really good because my son's on residential. I ain't got much responsibilities today.
Lovely.
So I got in the mirror and I took a selfie with my 36-week pregnant bump, and my face is, I ain't got no makeup on. I'm glad you can't see me, to be fair. But yeah, it were almost like, no, this is me. I'm 36 weeks pregnant. I'm knackered. I've had 2 hours sleep, but this is me. Accept it or don't.
Yes,
So yeah,
I
just
love
pause,
that.
get a picture you like this, exactly, smiling, get the picture taken.
I love that. I always say, like, honestly, if you see lives on my group, I will usually be in a hoodie and my joggers. I will usually, I will normally just have a mum bun. You
Yep.
guys have actually got nicely washed hair this morning, which makes a nice change.
Not me.
And I and I very rarely have makeup on, because actually the most important thing is what you're saying and what you're doing to help people. And I would
Yeah.
like to think that it doesn't have any impact on how people absorb my information, because
Yeah.
I'm being me and I'm enjoying it. And I think I love what you just said there about finding the stuff that you enjoy. As I alluded to earlier, I really feel like we have lost the fact that actually social media is meant to be a fun place. You're meant to be able to enjoy it. So being able to be, as an example, creative with your content, because you feel like you've got to post certain types of posts all the time and you've got to be putting something out and you feel the pressure. That is why I work with people to plan their content in advance, so that it gives them the freedom to then do a reel on the hoof, to go live because they feel impassioned by something, or just spend some time creating graphics. Who doesn't love a couple of hours on Canva just creating some fun motivational quotes or something like that? So giving yourself the space to be able to be creative and have a bit of fun on social media, for me, is absolutely vital, and leads me nicely, I hope, into Yvonne, where we talk about actually, how do you find happiness in your life?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? And I have to say that none of my clients come to me and go, make me happy, Yvonne. It's normally sort this out. And then you go, would you like to be happy? What does that mean? And I think that's the whole point. Being happy means different things to different people. For me, it just means being me and being authentically me. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's how I use social media. So I have outsourced all of my business posts because A, I wasn't consistent enough. B, I did write a plan, but then I'd get a bit bored and go, I'm going to talk about this today. There was never a call to action on them. And it was just me just sending random stuff out. So I thought, this is not very professional. So I outsourced all of that. So then it frees me up to post whatever I want to post, when I want to post it, and to sit there and just do, right, this is me. And whether you like me or not, that's entirely up to you, because not everybody's going to like me, and I'm okay with that. I need that connection with people. And for me, this is where social media is brilliant, because you can connect, but you need to be authentic. And actually, you need to be authentic in all aspects of your life, not just on social media. So many of us put a mask on because this is how we're supposed to behave. We're supposed to turn up like this. We're supposed to be this. Supposed to be is exhausting. And that's where that happiness comes. You just pull it out. So it's the simple things. I think, as Becky was saying, the 40 things to do before you're 40. They don't have to do big things. I say to my clients, if you're really struggling, 3 things. One thing that you have to do, and that could be cleaning my teeth. That basic. One thing that you need to do. Now, that could be something like taking your kids to school, or, I need to write this blog or whatever. And one thing that makes you happy. And it's that one thing that we tend to just let slip. But again, that can be something as simple as, I was talking about my cat earlier, playing with my cat. Having a cup of coffee in the sunshine, it's still a little bit of sunshine. They don't have to be big things, but you need to acknowledge that actually they do make you happy, because we focus on the negatives. But again, on social media, I love it because I'm allowed to be me, and I've given myself that permission to be me. And if anybody's connected with me, you will see videos from the last month or so where I am broken. I broke my shoulder back in July. And I just thought, I'm going to tell you how shit my life is, because it is. And I also think that sometimes as business owners, we feel that we need to turn up and be professional and have this, I call it my Heidi High face. If, some of you are old enough to remember Heidi High, constant smile, everything's amazing. That's exhausting. Do you know what? This is me. This is real. And I think being real, accepting who you are as a person, loving yourself as a person, both on and off social media, that's where happiness comes from. But as I said, I've had a hell of a lot of work done. You know, this wasn't me 4 years ago, but it's that acceptance and allowing yourself to be happy and have fun and laugh, because we don't. Our kids do, and we encourage our kids, as you were saying, Amy, to be creative. You know, I've just started painting. I'm rubbish at it, but I do it and I enjoy it. So it's trying new things. We stop trying new things.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, look at social media, see what your friends are doing. You know, I saw somebody the other day doing some burlesque dancing. I'm like, oh, I'd love that. Yeah, not on my shoulder right now. But do you know what? Try something new. And, you know, the painting has come from social media. I was sat thinking, I wouldn't mind painting. And all of a sudden, a post popped up. And I'm like, the universe is talking to me here. So I was like, yeah. And the other thing that I do, and I have done for years, and this goes back to my corporate days, is as soon as we have dinner, I put my phone on in the kitchen to charge, and it stays there.
Yep.
And the only time I get it before I go to bed, but I put it on aeroplane mode, and it's only there for the alarm. So after 7 o'clock, you will very rarely see me on a device, because that is my time without it. And it's brilliant. I did have to explain to lots of people, but you know, if you're messaging me after 7, don't expect a response, because you're not going to get it. And as soon as you explain that to them, they're okay with it. But to begin with, they thought I was being rude. It's like, oh, look, you know, my life does not revolve around this, funnily enough. So yeah, it's acceptance, and just try something new and give it a go. Do you know what I mean? Just give something a go. And if it makes you smile, continue doing it. If it doesn't, don't do it again. Simple as that.
Just give it a try. I love it. I'm just realizing that actually the tips, there is a bit of a flow. I'm going to wind up in a second, because I know a couple of you have to get off at 2 o'clock. It's like, if you start off with overwhelm, clear out the groups you don't need to be in. Don't try and lessen the content that you're not enjoying seeing that's triggering for you. Recognize what's triggering, see if you can work on that. That then gives you the space to start doing stuff that you actually enjoy, to put yourself out there confidently and just be yourself, rather than feeling completely overwhelmed and horrified by everything that you see. So I think there's some incredible tips there, ladies. Thank you so much. I will, in the content that I'm posting out over the next few weeks, I will share sort of summaries of those, because I think they're absolutely amazing, but some really practical stuff, which is exactly why I gathered you all together today. And I'm really, really grateful for your time. Before we jump off, do you want to each just tell everybody where they can follow you? So Chantal, should we go for you first?
Yeah. So you can find me, well, if you want to just connect, if you look for Chantal Nobu, which is Nogbou, I have to spell it because people very often go, what? Or you can look for Dragonfly Acupuncture Leads on Facebook or Instagram. Just make sure when you look for Dragonfly, you put leads behind it, because otherwise you have some others pop up who aren't as amazing as I am. Or you can find www.dragonflyacupunctureleads.co.uk is my website. And yeah, that's it. I've had a lovely time. Thank you, Amy, for having me as part of this. And my phone keeps slipping. So
it's wonderful.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much. If
My
you need
pleasure.
to get off, don't worry. I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
Hi. Nicola, shall we come to you next?
Hi, yeah, so you can find me everywhere. So Instagram's always the easiest one to share, because it's Stronger Than Your Mind, but with an underscore in between each word. I have got a group here on Facebook, which is Stronger Than Your Mind, Mental Health Support for Mums and Mumpreneurs. It's a long thing to type in, so it might just be easier to go on the Instagram, or you can just find me on Facebook, I'm Nicola Parker. So yeah, you can find me everywhere. And I do have a mental fitness quiz for anyone who's kind of wanting to look at their mental fitness score right now and see where they're at. But most importantly, like we were saying with the triggers, if you want to know what areas you need to be focusing on right now for you, doing the mental fitness quiz will help break down those areas for you to see what you need to work on the most right now to help improve your mental fitness score. And that is linked in my bio on all my social media platforms, or it is on my website, which is strongerthanyourmind.com. And thank you so much for having me today, Amy. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. I was over the moon when you said you were going to come on. I can highly recommend Nicola's group. She is absolutely fabulous. There's been certain things that have really just made me think, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I could do that. And it's honestly, even just I think you do a weekly post where you check in with everybody and you get them to put 5 emojis about how they're feeling, and it gets me thinking about my week. So it gets me reviewing the good stuff and the bad stuff, and it shows you. I think there was one the other day where I just put knackered, all the tired emojis, and you said, I hope that you're okay. And had I felt the need, I could have said, I'm flipping fed up of being a mum or so, or whatever it is. Usually on a Friday, I'm just waiting until the moment that they go to their grandparents on the lucky weekends. But yeah, so thank you. And I highly recommend everybody go and find Nicola's group. So thank you ever so much for being here today. Shall we come on to Becky next?
Yep. So I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook as Barrel of Photos. That's where I post all my sort of wedding pictures, the women's confidence shoots if they want to show them off. And then I have a group called Empowered Women, Empower Women. And that is where I'm going to do a lot more posting, I believe, rather than my personal profile, just to, keep up with my emotions and keep up with everybody else. And I just feel like it's a great way to get through life. And then the other one is there's on Spotify, it's 40 Things to Do Before I'm 40. I'm on number 4 next, and it's going to be a funny one. So yeah, it might be worth having a listen.
I definitely need to check that out. I'm 5.5 months off it myself, so I'm going to have to rush through the list, I think, aren't I? But yes, I'm really excited about checking that one out. Thank you ever so much,
Thank
Becky.
you. Thanks for having me.
Here. And then finally, last but not least, the lovely Yvonne. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to share where people can connect and about the amazing freebie that you're offering?
Yes, so the best place to connect with me is on Facebook. It's Yvonne Pritchard, and I'm also down as a sunshine finder. So yeah, connect with me on there because I share everything. I probably overshare, but it would be lovely to share with you guys and to connect with you.
I always say you cannot overshare. As long as it's something you're comfortable saying, honestly, whatever you share, people will relate to. It is bonkers, the fact that people feel like, oh, I mustn't say something because I don't want people to be offended. But then I'm the kind of person who will talk about anything. So I will, with anyone, I'm just absolutely like an open book. But you can never, ever overshare. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they have to hold back. So thank you ever so much.
You're welcome. My feed is very varied. It's from cats to rugby to football to business. So have a look at it. And as Amy said, there is Amy's got a link to a free ebook about your mindset and how you change your mindset from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. But please connect with me because I'm just on a mission to make people happy. Simple as that. But thank you for having me today. It's been lovely. It's been lovely meeting you all.
And you four as well, absolutely, all of you. It's been amazing. So yes, make sure you come and connect, come and follow everybody and find out a bit more about them. If you want to know about the links to the freebies, I have them on my laptop, so I can send them over to you. Just make sure you've commented or reacted, liked, loved, if you want to go that far, my comments, so this post, so that I can see that you're interested and I can come and drop you a freebie. A huge thank you to all the ladies in the comments. We've managed managed to answer your questions as we go along, which is fabulous. I think you all know each other. So I was going to say, why don't you share your links in the comments as well? But I'm pretty sure you all know each other. But either way, I hope that you've all managed to have some lovely chats and make some good connections today as well. As I mentioned briefly at the start of the podcast, this is my pilot episode. The aim is for this to be the pilot episode of my brand new podcast. I decided last night it's going to be called Transform, Grow, Success, which if anybody has seen my new little video, that is a tagline that's come out of my jingle. So the wonderful Carol Barrick, who did my jingle, she came up with Transform, Grow, Success. So we're going to share transformational stories of women in business to inspire you. We're going to get those ladies to share their expertise to help you grow in your business, in your personal life, however it is that they're able to help. And then we are going to talk about any success stories of social media that they've had. And what I really want to do is get into the niggly bits of social media with them, anything that's causing any problems, so that we can share the solutions with you. So we will be touching on social media, but really the idea is that it continues to be an interactive podcast just like today, and then it will inspire and motivate anyone who is watching. So if you would like to be a guest speaker on that, do let me know, drop me a message, and I will be in touch. So I'm going to be organising all of that very soon. To finish with, I'm going to take everybody off camera, and I'm just going to finish with that lovely video that I just mentioned. But I just want to say, go out, enjoy the rest of the day. Nicola, I loved what you said about World Mental Health Day. It isn't just today. So if you think somebody might be struggling, then please do reach out to them any day of the week, because it may just be exactly what they need. And if you are struggling, yes, I am always here, but also don't feel like you've got to post, or don't feel like you've got to force yourself on social media, because we have all been there and you will be. Okay, so I am just switching over to my video, if I can find it. Thank you again to everybody who's joined in. I've really, really enjoyed today. I am super, super excited, and now off to Asda to go and decompress. Enjoy your day, everybody, and I will hopefully speak to everybody very soon.
Bye.
Wouldn't you like a magic wand to take away your stress? How about some magic words, transform, grow, success? Go to the wizard that is wise, and right before your eyes, powerful content will arise, create it into